Hey team, wanted to make a video because I have been doing a lot of crafting lately for the upcoming holidays, and so I found an audiobook. It was originally supposed to be for my walking commute, but I've only listened to it once walking, but I very much enjoyed it. It was called The Women, and it's by, I believe, Kristin. It was about female characters who went to Vietnam, served as nurses, and then it was about their experiences there as well as their return trip home. Obviously, Vietnam was a very controversial war. A lot of people didn't want us to be a part of it. We didn't win it. It was just one of those things. A lot of people were dying, and so it was kind of around the hippie movement and make love, make peace, not war, and flower power. And so it was a unique book, especially because it said that only 8 females did serve in Vietnam. So I actually I thought it was very good, just because I have read about Vietnam a little previously, and obviously, coursework classes, you learn about those things, and I think it was honest, and it was trying to explain a little bit about transitioning into real life after war times. One of the characters did suffer from PTSD. It sounds like multiple characters had flashbacks, and they were females, and they would go to the Veterans Association and ask for help, ask for rehabilitative services, and they would literally be turned down because there were no women in Vietnam. And so they couldn't get treated, they couldn't be helped. They were turned out of the male counseling sessions, because they were not male, because they hadn't quote unquote seen combat. They were over there, but they hadn't been, as they said, in the shit. But arguably they were in hospitals that were attacked. They did have bombings. A nurse did die per this book, and they were very, very vulnerable where they were, and so it could be said that they did see combat. They saw people who were subject to landmines and who were blown up, who lost limbs, who were burning from Agent Orange, and so it was not like they were there, they were treating them, they were sewing closed, or like gashing wounds, and just very bad wounds, and so who would imagine that they wouldn't have some sort of PTSD after trying to help in that scenario? It's exceptional, the sort of wounds that you treat during wartime, and so it was a very unique book. The main character that was being followed also was shunned by her family for her service. She was hoping to be a hero and gain the respect of her father, and there were other social dynamics as well, but they were embarrassed, and they said that she was studying abroad in Florence instead of in war. And so just it was just very sad, just trying to watch these people come back into their world. And one of them, of course, was out on the farm, and she adjusted very quickly, because she didn't, a very rural lifestyle, perhaps not standing on as much social pomp and circumstance and social acceptance, and maintaining that consistent hard work, going from treating these horrendous wounds to becoming a veterinarian and having a farm, and maintaining that farm and taking care of whatever cows, and it's consistent work and it keeps you busy. So um, there was another good girlfriend there who joined up with movements for peace, movements for the betterment of women. I believe she was the black character, who also was trying to fight racial discrimination. Her brother was a member of the Black Panther, and he was killed standing up for African American rights. So it was obviously a very dynamic time to go back. And once the POWs were returned, they said it was completely different, because then people had gotten over a lot of that war hatred, and it said that they were literally insulting these warriors who were coming back from war, because they didn't agree with the war, but these people had been in the shit. They had seen, people completely blown up, dismembered, in this guerrilla warfare type environment, and then spat on when they got home with protesters insulting them to their faces. It just sounds, when they were just trying to serve their country, or they were drafted, and they didn't try to dodge the draft by getting married, or something like that, getting a further education. So just kind of an interesting situation. But the gal did suffer from PTSD. She did have the flashbacks. She did mistake fireworks for bombs and things like that, and this was before they really understood about PTSD, and so that was part of the book, was a therapist saying, no, we're finding these same symptoms in a number of veterans who are coming back from the war, and we are going to study it, and we are going to figure out what's going on. So it was, I'd say it was a very good book. It wasn't happy per se. There were a few love interests, and it was hard to kind of ship any of them. And but it was just difficult, because she fell in love when she was in the war, and then twice, and they both, well, I'm not gonna tell spoilers, but they, like, you could sort of go yay, but not really, for various reasons. And then there was another guy, and then it was just, there were some very sad circumstances, and it just seemed to compound, and it was just compiling. Another sad thing happened, another sad thing happened, another sad thing happened, because she wasn't coping. She just went right back to being a nurse, and she was not reintegrating. She was not necessarily finding purpose. She did join up for a brief time. She was back with her gal pals from war times, to help her cope, and that was really good for her, and she helped with some of the social dynamic movements of fighting for rights and things, and that was a healthy move for her. And then eventually she founded her own establishment to help with the treatment of women, to give them the community that they needed, and that was kind of what changed her social dynamic. She did get help. She fell to drugs and alcohol, to cope with the stress, and So it was just tough. She went to rehab, and then she did get some counseling, and so it was just really really sad because of what warriors have to go through, returning to the real world after they have seen such horrendous crimes, and there were no resources for women. So it was really great to read about those um, efforts. So overall, I'd say I was disappointed in, like, after another tragedy in the book. I was just like, can't she just be happy? Can't they just let her be happy yet? um, but it wasn't in the cards, and then at the end, it was there was hope at the end, and so so in theory it could be quote unquote realistic. It was still kind of sad, and I'd love to see different results in the book. Like, if I were to change a variable, I would. It ended with hope. There was hope there, but it was a long time out, a long time in coming, and there was just so much sad in the betweens. So I did think that it was very interesting. I was engaged in the entirety of it, and all of the medical scenes, and um, so I could see the emphasis in the modern era of health first and taking care of people, taking care of each other. War times, obviously, you don't see it quite so traumatic as it is generally portrayed in Vietnam, in the modern era, but there's definitely something to be said for reading about the trauma of it all. So so the social dynamics, of course, she was an affluent, the main character was an affluent woman from an affluent family, and they had standards, and she was supposed to get married, and that was supposed to be her contribution to the family lineage, and she wanted more, and there was eventual recognition of that. So drama, drama, drama. But I would actually recommend that you read it. I would like to heal her sooner than it was articulated, and I would have loved to have seen a little more happiness in the interim. But of course, she wasn't healed yet at that point, and so it could have been an unhealthy happiness, and you just want her to be healed. You just want everyone to be healed and to be okay. And it's obviously a very tough situation. So definitely worth reading. Sad. I would prefer it to have been a little bit different, but I think it was okay, all things considered. So with that, I am going to close this video. Check it out, The Women by Kristin Hannah. Thanks.